Hello and welcome to day 22. So let's find an opponent here. Playing another 15-minute game with a 10-second increment. And as it searches. Alright, so we actually have the white pieces. So we'll begin with e4 that I've been using in this series. Alright, so now the Sicilian defense. So we'll play knight to f3 and see what they do here. Alright, now can't remember exactly what I wanted to use in this repertoire. I know against the Sicilian I'll play bishop to b5. So I guess I'll do that now and see what they do here. If they block with their bishop, which they did, I guess I can go ahead and capture and exchange their good bishop for my bad bishop. And so, but it did help develop their knight. Although usually, maybe it would be better to recapture with the queen and then develop your knight here to c6. I'll have to research that and see if that makes much of a difference. Alright, so now let's see. Do we just continue to open the position up here? Or maybe we go for the Maroczy bind here. So we'll try that. We'll bring up c4 here, and then we gain control of this d5 square, which is usually pretty important in the Sicilian defense here. So they're attacking our knight. We'll go ahead and protect that. Alright, so now what I was talking about, how they went ahead and they played e6 here, which may allow them to press forward here and try and push this pawn to d5. So let's see, I guess we could play open Sicilian by capturing here, or not capturing, by pushing this pawn, and then if black captures, we recapture. Then they could have a chance to attack us here. Let's see, should I go ahead and castle? Alright, so that is the decision. Should I just push forward here? Maybe I'll go ahead and do this. But if they capture, then I recapture. They could push their knight down here into the position. Then we'll have two pieces attacking here. Although then I could just bring up this pawn to protect. All right, should I castle? Well, we'll go ahead and castle, see what they do. At least it gets our king safe. Alright, so they develop their bishop, that way they're ready to castle. So now we might as well just push forward here. Try and open the center up, that way our queen at least will be controlling, putting pressure down this d file. Alright, so now I guess we might as well capture this way. And then if he attacks us, we could push our knight up to f5, attacking their bishop and this pawn along with the queen. Alright, so now probably need to develop this bishop, but if I develop the bishop now, he could attack. So what I'm thinking now is, do I push this pawn to f3, protect my central pawn? But I need to get this bishop up here, which, yeah, I guess I can go ahead and do that right now because my queen is covering that square. So, what am I thinking here? I might as well just do that immediately. The other option would be to attack his knight. So maybe that's something I should consider. Attacking his knight and knocking that out. Although, if I would have played bishop to g5, threatened to attack his knight, he could either recapture with his other knight. Okay, so now he's trying to move down here, perhaps put pressure on this unprotected pawn. So, I might as well just go ahead, push forward and protect that pawn. And then what will his knight do? His knight will be kind of limited, although he has all these pieces piling up in the center here. All right, well, I might as well do that. And it looks like he may achieve his goal of just pushing his d pawn forward here. So if he does that, if he pushes his d pawn forward, and that's usually a main goal for black in the Sicilian defense, is to put this pawn, push his d pawn up to d5. So if we start exchanging, if I capture, he recaptures with the pawn, I capture, his knight comes down, I capture, his other knight will be attacking my bishop. So maybe it would have been better to put my bishop up to g5 and knock out his knight up there. But I don't know. Now I'm thinking, it's his best move to just go ahead and just push his d pawn right now. That may be his best move. But then again, if he pushes that pawn, should I go ahead and push forward and attack his knight? But then he could retreat back and attack that pawn, and it would be unprotected. And then what do I do? Do I push my other pawn up, or do I reposition this bishop to protect it? If he did that, do I capture here? So, I don't know. The open Sicilians can be pretty tricky and have a lot going on, a lot of tactics. So I used to play the Sicilian all the time as black, but with this Quest for 2000, I wanted to switch over to e4, e5 openings as black. Because they're less crazy. Okay, so this leaves a gap here. So this could be to my advantage. Now I can just attack his bishop and pawn at the same time. So, do I jump up here? Jump up here, attacking his bishop. If he pushes his pawn to drive me away, well, then what do I do? Well, then I could capture and then pin this knight. Okay, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to push this. He's created a weakness here. So he probably would have been better off to just push his d pawn. Now he has this hole that I can try and take advantage of here on d5, and maybe get a knight in there at some point, or another piece. And this backwards pawn here will be weak, so I should move forward. And the question is, what's the best way to do that? I could go here to f5, attacking his bishop and pawn at the same time. If he chases me away, maybe with g6, it'll create another weakness. I can just go ahead and capture, but then I'd be exchanging this good advanced knight, I guess. Although, where would I retreat if he attacked me when I'm on f5? I'd have to go back here. So, let's see. I would have to capture. He would capture. Well, then I could use my bishop to pin and take this knight. So I think that's the way to go forward. The other option might be to jump here, but what does that do? He could just chase me away. So I'm going to go here. We'll try that. And just attack his bishop. Maybe we can knock out that bishop, which is a defender of his backwards pawn. We want to try and jump this knight forward here to d5, but at the moment he'll just pick us off. If we can, I don't know, maybe line up our queen and rooks up here on this half-open d file, that'll give us an advantage in the endgame. Okay, so he decides to do that. Well, what do we do here? We'll just knock out his bishop. He'll recapture with the queen. We'll move our bishop up and pin his knight. So I think that would be best. Now there's a threat here also of him pushing the pawn forward, and I can't capture here with the pawn. I would have to either capture with this pawn. If he does that anyway, I could just capture with this pawn and then he can't capture back. But he's trying to line up on my unprotected knight here, so I have to watch out for that. Now, do I have something better here possibly? I mean, should I attack his queen by moving my other knight here? If I attack his queen, where can it go? He can't go here to c6, or I could fork his queen and bishop, or queen and king, capture the bishop, forking the king and the queen if it goes to c6. So if I go here, maybe he would just back up to here. But then I have to watch out because this pawn will be unprotected here. So, if I go here, attacking the queen. So this is where the crazy tactics come in. I move forward to b5 with the knight, attacking his queen. He needs to keep an eye on this bishop. So where does he go? Only to d7 or up here to d8. It's the only thing I see. All right, should we go ahead and attack? Or do we just go ahead and knock this bishop out, then pin, take his other knight? Okay. All right, I'm going to play a little risky. I'm going to move forward, attack his queen. We'll see what he does. And maybe I could knock out his other knight over here as well. But he is letting, if we look at the difference in the position, look at my knights. They're far advanced onto his side of the board. And there was an interesting strategy by Bobby Fischer. He felt that if you ever get your pieces, let your opponent get his pieces on your side of the board, you should try and get rid of them as quickly as possible. All right, so what would be best here? Well, now we can just take this pawn, but then he could take our pawn. So we can also take this knight and double his pawns up, creating weaknesses here. Probably want to go here, keep that knight out. Okay. All right, this is where the game will change. So we should probably knock out, maybe take this knight, double his pawns. But maybe before we do that, we should capture his bishop possibly. Then if we attack his queen, all right, well, here we go. First, I think we'll knock out his bishop. Then we'll double his pawns. So knock out the bishop with check. Capture over here and double the pawns up. Let's see. Should we go ahead and just take this pawn now? Threaten to attack his queen. All right, first let's try this. Now let's go ahead and attack his queen. With that. Now we're protecting our pawn and attacking his. All right, so what we would like to do is push this pawn to f3, but he's probably just going to move a rook and attack our knight. Okay, so he did not do that. That will give us time to go ahead and protect this pawn. Interesting. Well, we'll go ahead and just do that then. Okay. Well, now we might as well just recapture. Now we're attacking his pawn, so we might as well just pick that off. So now we're pretty much winning, I think. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right. Well, we might as well just... okay, I see. Let's see here. Nah, we'll go there and attack his rook. See what he does. Okay. Well, if you're ahead, you might as well trade down more material. So, let me take a look, make sure I don't have a better move here. Will this check do anything? We'll just trade down material here. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Well, we could attack. Let's see. If I could get my knight, to cover this square. No, because now if I try and push forward, okay. Well, maybe we should attack. Let's see. Do I attack his king with check up here? Jump down to here. Alright, so now I'm just running out of time. So let's go ahead and... Well, now I could move this. This pawn is protected now. So... we'll just attack from there. See what he does. Okay. Well, now what? Take control of this open file. Let me take a look. I don't want to get in trouble here. And he's really limiting my knight here. Okay. Let's just take control here. We'll go ahead and do that. All right, now what? Jump our king up towards the center. That would probably be a good idea. Okay, if this is attacked, where do we go? We'll just do that. Maybe we could jump our knight back here, attack his. If he takes, we'll recapture. But now I'm really running out of time, so I need to get moving here. Oh man, he could just pick off this b pawn and I can't recapture because then he would capture this. So great. I guess he hasn't, how long has that been going on? And now I'm rushing with time. So, yep, okay, he found it. But I'm going to go ahead and capture. To trade down material since I'm ahead here. All right, there we go. All right, I guess I have to do that. Right. Okay. Go ahead and do that to restrict his knight and to give our king some more room. And just see what he does here. And man, we're really low on time, so I have to watch that. But I'm still ahead by what, 1 pawn? So, man, I made that mistake of giving that 1 pawn back. Okay. Well, now we could just push, so he can't bring his knight into the game there. So we'll just go ahead and do that. All right. Guess we could cover that with our rook. All right, go ahead and attack him. Okay, now he's just trying to run me out of time. So, let's see, how do we get to his pawn? All right. All right, well, we might as well just move our king down the board. All right. Okay, so now he's going after that. So looks like we have to push forward. We'll go ahead and do that. All right. This is so bad. Let's see. Okay. Well, I guess we can attack there. trade off material, but now his knight gets down into the position. All right. Sorry about this. Man, I got myself into some time trouble here. That is for sure. Let myself get in time trouble, and this is probably gonna either cost me the game or create a draw here. Okay, what can we do? Do we push forward with our pawn? We'll just do that. All right, I really have to watch the time, so I better keep an eye on that. So I need to move my king up here to b3. What can he do? What threats does he have? He could start pushing his pawns forward and cause problems here. Okay, do I attack his knight? Well, first I probably have to go ahead and just pick this off, which, I don't know if that's best. Let's see. Okay, if I move here, it's not going to be good. All right, we'll just move the king up. Got to do that. Yeah, this is not looking good at all. Not looking good at all. Okay, well now I can do that. Check him. He's forced to capture with his knight. Or not. Oh, or he could just move down with his king. That's not good. Now his king's going to get into the position. This is not good. All right. We'll do that. Now I'm in trouble. Now I'm just in trouble here. What do I do? What do I do? Go there. At least I get this other pawn. This is so bad. All right, gotta go there. Gotta go here. All right. I'm just in such time trouble here. All right, do I push forward here? Do I go after his knight? Go after his knight, I guess. Now, do I go after that knight again? Oh, I think I got the win now. Yep. Now we have the win, I believe. Or is this a draw now? Might be a draw. Crap. I think it's a draw. Are you kidding me? That ended up being a messy game. I don't know. My opponent, for only being a 1450, like, played pretty solid. I don't know. I thought from all the mistakes that he made earlier in the game, I don't know. I just gave that game away, I think. All right. Well, let's take a quick look at the game review. I don't know. That game just ended up being a mess. So I felt that I had so many opportunities to win that game, and then just didn't do it. All right. So let's see here. We'll do the game review and see what could have been done differently. Probably many things. Yes, look, I only played 71.9% accuracy in this versus their 72.2, which they found a lot of the best moves, 31, and one great move. Oh, I had 8 great moves, but only 21 best moves. All right, let's look at the bad moves. I had 2 blunders. So I guess I was lucky to even hold on there. But man, I just felt I had so many chances that I guess I gave away. So let's see what all I did wrong. And I mean, time trouble definitely contributed to that. I guess I burned up too much time earlier in the game. Inaccuracies, they had 6 and I had 5. Mistakes, they had 9 and I had 6. They had 3 misses, but I had 6. So we'll have to see what I missed. Obviously quite a few there. and blunders, see what these two blunders are. So we'll do the quick game review here. And then, so what is this? The Sicilian defense. We'll just blast through these moves and then see what we should have done differently. And so here again, the computer says this is definitely a mistake, pushing this pawn forward, leaving a backward D pawn, leaving this hole here on D5, which pieces can take advantage of. Let's see here. So now it did not like this. It did not like capturing this knight here. Better would have been to immediately capture with the queen. All right, well, we'll take a look at that in the analysis. But either way, white is already ahead here. So now capturing here is a mistake. Interesting, interesting. Queen to e2, protecting the pawn would have been better. All right, so now we have b5, a blunder here by the opponent. Better would have been rook at f to d8, attacking the knight, which is what I thought would happen in the game. And then I guess I would have to defend the knight. And then maybe they would try and double up. Or, it could get complicated. We'll take a look at that as well in the analysis. All right, so now white is ahead by plus 3 points. So I'm winning at this point, and just let that game, just let that win disappear, I guess. So this is a miss. They should have immediately taken that pawn, and I can't capture, or they just recapture my rook. So I just missed that. Those little rook tactics. All right, so here once again they should have just captured that pawn. Instead they move this pawn forward. Then I make a mistake here. I should have played rook at a to d1. So it looks like I should have just given up this pawn and doubled my rooks. So, I mentioned that in another video, how rooks are not good when they have to play guard duty. They're better when they're attacking. And so I let my opponent get an advantage by using his rook to attack while my rook was just playing defense here. All right, and this pawn push was a mistake. So instead, I should have just moved my king. Now the game's almost even. So h5 is a mistake. Now black is ahead. I should have just captured. All right, and I thought about that, but I missed it. Knight to c5 is a mistake. You permitted the opponent to capture. The checking knight. Well, I thought if he did that, I would be able to capture and then attack. My pawn would recapture, and then I'd have a passed pawn, and I'd be able to go up here and pick off his pawn. All right, so anyway, we'll just go ahead and look at the rest of the game here, and then we'll look at the analysis. All right, so this was a blunder here, but I didn't, and so now I'm winning again, and I don't know what I did here. It was a mess. All right, so I capture, and that was the mistake there. Oh my gosh, see? Trying not to get low on time, I missed this fork with the knight. And then I could have picked off that pawn and been winning. Oh my gosh. I guess time trouble. I let it get to me. So I completely missed my winning chance there, probably many times. All right, and I only played a 1450 level there. It looks like we both did. So I apologize for playing that bad game, everybody. Let's see. You had a pretty competitive game there. It says both of you played an amazing opening. The middle game battle was fairly even. You both battled pretty evenly in the end game. All right, yeah, that game was pretty rough. So let's take a look at the analysis here. We'll go back to the beginning. Maybe orange is not my color. I changed the color of the board today, so you have to let me know. If you like these different colored boards, if you prefer the green board, or if it makes any difference. All right, so let's dive into this analysis real quick. E4, C5, the Sicilian. So normally you play knight to F3 next to help control the center, and then D6. So here, there are different options. You could play immediately with D4, and then they could capture, you capture, then they develop the other knight attacking your e-pawn, and then you protect it with your knight. But for this opening repertoire, I'm trying to play this bishop to b5 move in the Sicilian here. And then, this forces black to make a decision. Their king is being checked. They have to block with the knight or with the bishop. So they chose to block with the bishop. So now this allows white to trade off his bad bishop, which could be blocked in by these his central pawn, which is on the same color squares as the bishop. And we trade it off for black's good bishop, which was on the opposite colored squares as his central pawns. But it did help him develop his knight. Although, maybe it would have been better to develop the queen, but this is a book move. Let's see if the computer... it says it's about even, whether the knight or the queen captures. But if the queen captures, then the knight might have the option of jumping up here with knight to c6 instead of being back further here on knight to d7. All right. So the game continued with c4. Which is a book move. We set up this Maroczy bind, which helps clamp down on this d5 square here, which is usually a pretty important square in the Sicilian defense. And a lot of times if black can push his d-pawn up to d5 without incurring any problems, if he's able to freely do that, without losing anything or giving up any advantages, then the game will be, it kind of evens the game a little bit more for black and relieves a lot of his cramped position that he can have in the Sicilian defense. So the knight develops, and we're still in book moves here. So I go ahead and develop my knight. So white's knights... my knight here on c3 is a little better developed than this knight. So now he pushes his pawn to e6, and the computer says that a6 would have been better, which would keep this knight out of b5 and where it can attack this d-pawn. And that did cause him some problems later. All right, so I castle, which is best, and they develop, which is excellent, but the computer actually preferred knight to e5, which now if he would have moved to e5 with his knight, if I capture, it would double his pawns up, but doubled e-pawns might actually help control the center a little bit better, because then I wouldn't be able to push forward my d-pawn there, and then I would have this backwards d-pawn. So, I would probably just have to leave my knight there, and I don't know, this pawn would have been under attack, so I'd probably have to jump forward and protect it, and then the knight could possibly jump down in here, so maybe I would have to play d3 to keep his knight from being able to jump down to d3. All right, so d4 is played, which is the best move, threatening to capture his c-pawn, which he would recapture with, well, I don't know, then he could recapture with his knight. So, maybe better would be to just even push this d-pawn forward. But usually with all these pawns here, black should just go ahead and capture that d-pawn, which is what he did, which is the best move. And then we recapture with the knight, which is the best move. Now we have our knight even more centralized here. And so it looks like queen to a5 is considered the best move, which would put pressure on this knight on c3, possibly, especially if we want to push this pawn to b3 to help protect our c-pawn. So castling, which is a good move, but now white is ahead by 0.65 here. So we develop our bishop, which is good, but b3 immediately would have been better, it looks like. All right, so now we have this knight move, which the computer says is good, but rook to c8 immediately would have been better. So now, excuse me, so now we push this b pawn to protect our c pawn. And what is the knight doing now here on b6? Well, I guess it's helping cover this d5 square, and black probably needs to push that d pawn, but instead he pushed his e pawn, creating weaknesses. All right, so this is a mistake. So it looks like better would have been the knight back up here to d7, and then from there it could jump down here possibly to c5. Also rook to c8 immediately would be good, because then, excuse me, with rook to c8 it would line up on this unprotected knight. So then, this c-pawn, if there were exchanges, I'd have to always be careful that that knight's not protected. So now we have e5, the mistake move. So now white is ahead at this point by plus 2.3 here. So it looks like the best move is knight to f5, which is what I played. So now we put pressure on the bishop. We attack the pawn here. So looks like rook to e8 is best, just developing the rook to protect the bishop. So if we capture, the rook could capture, and maybe with the rook on the black's second rank, it would be easier to double rooks up, maybe on this half open c file. Or even over here to help protect this backwards d pawn here. All right, so queen to c7, which is an inaccuracy. Rook to e8 would have been better. And now it's calling for queen to f3 here. Queen to f3. Excuse me. So queen to f3, what would that do? Well, I guess it would threaten to bring our queen over to the king side, and then we could try and go here to g3 and put some pressure up here on the king, which I don't know. I guess I didn't even think about that because I was worried about trying to take advantage of the weaknesses in the center here. Knight to b5, immediately attacking the queen, is the second best move. Even rook to c1, kind of protecting the knight and lining up on the queen, that's also a decent move. So in the game we played knight to b5, and now the computer is saying that that's the best move. So we immediately attack the queen and this pawn here. So it looks like queen to d7 is best, which was played in the game. Now saying queen to d8 would have been better, but these two moves are about the same. So now looks like a4. The computer's recommending a4, or once again, queen to f3 here. So I guess I rushed and tried to, take advantage here in the center when maybe I should have just moved my queen up. And, well, yeah, I guess I could have still tried to create some threats here, over on the king side. But I don't know, it just protects this pawn. And then I could probably try and put rooks over here and line them up on this d pawn and the queen. All right, so we capture, and now the computer is saying that that is best, to just go ahead and capture the bishop. And then queen captures, of course. And now the computer says best is to immediately just go ahead and capture here with the queen. And it's even possible to capture with the knight. I thought, well, maybe that's not possible because the rook would pin the knight to the queen. But we could move here to f5, and if the rook captures our queen, our knight would be able to capture their queen with check here. So, an interesting possibility or interesting variation there. All right, so in the game, we played bishop captures this knight, thinking, oh, I can double up these pawns, but in the end, I don't know, that caused me issues because it opened a line for this rook on a8. So let's take a look at the most recommended line here, which is queen captures, and then it looks like after queen capture, knight captures. Well then, now it's recommending knight to c8, but why wouldn't they just attack with a rook? Knight to c8, and then we would capture this pawn over here on b7, and then they would capture our central pawn. But then we would have this pawn majority here. They would have a kingside pawn majority, but we'd still be ahead that extra pawn. So I don't know. We could take a look at these, a few more moves. So, oh, excuse me, wrong knight. Knight to c8. Well then, knight captures on b7. Knight captures on e4. And then f3, which would just go ahead and attack that knight. So we would play that. And then they would move up to d6 here. And then it looks like we just capture, exchange off knights, which, we're ahead in material, so why wouldn't we just exchange? And then, I don't know, it looks like we would attack the knight with our bishop. So we'd have an advantage of the bishop over the knight in a fairly open position, and pawns on both sides of the board. When there's pawns on both sides, it's usually better to have a bishop over a knight because the bishop can move back and forth more quickly. All right, so let's go back and take a look at the game. So after knight captures, let's see, what was that? Knight captures the bishop, the queen recaptures, then we capture the knight, which is a miss. Doubling pawns, but white is still ahead here by about plus 1.87, it says here. But now, after this, which is a mistake, capture, better would have been, let's see, what would have been better here. So, better would have been queen to f3, it looks like. Just go ahead and protect this pawn in the center. All right. Now it's saying queen to e2 even might be better. So let's delete this move, put in queen to e2 and see what it says. So yeah, now it's saying queen to e2 is best, and white would still be ahead here. All right. So yeah, I mean, I guess I should have kept queens on the board maybe. I thought I was ahead in material. I should trade down. But this is a long-term weakness. I could possibly jump my knight up here, then put my knight up in this hole, and just start picking off his weaknesses. This weak backward D pawn and these doubled pawns here. And I need to play a4 to limit the scope of his rook down this a file here. All right. So in the game, I capture. They capture, which is best, so I recapture, of course. And then they play b5, which is a blunder. So here, rook at f to d8, attacking the knight should have been played. So if that were played, well then, it looks like, interesting, c5, or it's even calling for f4. F4, how is that even possible? F4. Oh, because then if the rook captures, we would capture and there'd be a fork. So if f4 is played and they capture our knight, well then we would recapture, or we would capture their e-pawn and fork the rook and the knight. So if f4 is played, then black would have to recapture the f4 pawn, and then we could push up to e5, attacking their knight. And, well, I don't know. Let's take a look at it. So, I mean, I guess first we'll take a look at c5. So it's saying c5 should have been played here. And now recommends knight to e8. And then we would just capture their knight if they moved up there. All right. Now, if the pawn is captured, well, then what do? Just capture this. Looks like we just capture that pawn. And then they want rook to d2, which is smart, putting your rook on the 7th rank, getting ready to double the rooks. So then knight captures, although it's saying f3 would have been better here. So let's go back there. So instead of that, delete that move. It looks like they're both, so there's 3 moves that are all about equal. So either bringing our rook over or just playing f3 here, which is what I think I played in the game at some point. And now just capture. And then we would just exchange material down, if that happened. And then rook to f2. But then they would check us and we'd have to move our rook back to f1. So I don't know, it looks like just immediately attacking this pawn. Okay, before I dive too deep into that, so we go back to the game. After the knight ends up here, now we have b5, a blunder by the opponent. And it says I should go ahead and capture that with the pawn. Oh man, I don't know why I didn't even look at that. I think I captured with the knight, didn't I? No, I didn't even do that. I didn't even capture. I think I played the second best move, f3, but it looks like I should have just gone ahead and captured with the pawn here. And then they would attack my knight, and the knight would go ahead and capture this other pawn. All right, yeah, I guess the time trouble just rattled me. The lower I got on time, I was trying to hurry, and I don't know, I just misplayed some opportunities here. So instead, I played f3 to cover this when it was already covered by the knight here. So they capture. I capture. Now I'm attacking this pawn. They play b5, which is not the best move. They should have played knight. Knight to h5 or rook to a6. Even knight to d7 would be okay to protect this pawn. So, they could probably even move a rook over to protect this pawn. But in the game, they attacked, and then here it's saying I should take the pawn, which is what I did. And then they grab the open line. So let's take a look here. So they do this. They put the rook on the open d file, which is a good move. But at this point, white is winning already by almost +4. So, man, I just let that game go down the drain, I guess. So I can't play that way if I want to reach 2,000. Okay, so I attacked when it looks like I should have just contested this open file. So I attacked. Now they were able to go down here and take control of this, or try and they basically moved down into the their 7th rank and into my position. I shouldn't have allowed that to happen. So here I thought they were just going to, well, I guess they can't double their rooks because my knight is covering that. But so they move up here. And I should have seen this threat, that they could have just taken this and they could have just captured this pawn on their next move, and they missed that. So I played here, and that is a mistake. So here I should have played rook to c1, it looks like. So rook to c1, I guess we'll take a look at that. Rook to c1, which would be best. And then they would play g6. g6. Or rook to d7. I guess maybe they're worried about my knight jumping back here and my rook moving up and trying to get some play on their 7th rank. We could take a quick look here. So it recommends g6, and then now it's saying knight to d7 is better. So I guess let's go back and take a look at that. It's saying rook to b2 here now to cover this pawn right here. All right, I'm going to end up veering off into too much analysis here. So let's get back on track and get back to the game. So after the rook moved up here, it looks like rook to c1 is what they're asking for, but we move our knight, attacking their rook. So they move here, and that is a miss. They should have immediately just captured this pawn, which then I didn't even pay attention to, because by this point I'm worried about running out of time. So here's another mistake, rook to d2, when I should have just, it looks like, brought my other rook to the d file and just forgotten about this pawn here. So Rook captures. So once again, it wants black to capture this B pawn because the protecting A pawn is pinned to the rook. So we have H6, which was a miss. And then another mistake by me. I should have played to double my rooks up here. So let's see. Rook finally captures that pawn. I figure, well, I'll just go ahead and capture and trade down materials. So they capture with check. My king moves up here. And then it looks like just moving into the corner would have been better, which would have kept my king safe and avoided problems. So I don't know. I just fouled up here. And now the game, it's still in white's favor if I would have moved to h2. But what do I do after they go rook to b1, which is a good move, but they prefer g5. So I move here, rook to d3. And I should have played g4 immediately, which I play that later to keep the knight from being able to jump down into the position. Yep, it's saying the knight should have jumped to h5 and then threatened to jump in here to f4, attacking my rook. So finally, I play that g4 move to limit the scope of his knight. The knight moves to h7, which is a mistake. I mean, I see from here he wants to jump down to g5, I assume, and put some pressure on this h pawn. But, I guess, time trouble again got me. If he jumps there, I could just chase him away. But could there be problems with a check? If he checked me, I guess I could run up to here. All right. I just got rattled in time trouble. Okay, so here, f4, another miss. We should have played rook to d8 with check and started chasing the king out into the open. They play a great move here, bringing their knight down into the position, threatening to capture on e4 with check. So now we protect with the rook, which is best. But they move over here to h1, attacking this pawn, which is protected. So, I don't know what I was thinking. Let's see here. They should have played g6, just pushing their pawn forward. So we attack them. They retreat to b1, which is best. We move over, which is an inaccuracy. f5 would have been better. So now they check, and we move down here and let ourselves be trapped on the first rank. So we should have just moved forward here. So another inaccuracy. So yeah, once I got down into time trouble, it was just one ugly looking move after another. So they move over here, which doesn't really do anything. This is a mistake. Once again, the computer wants g6. And we make the mistake here. So, it says we should have instead, let's go back and look. We should have played knight to d3 here. Which knight to d3, maybe we work on remaneuvering and going after this pawn. And we would protect this f pawn. So anyway, in the game, our king moves over. They attack, which is a miss. They should have played g5 now. So we push forward, and that is an inaccuracy. So knight to d3, protecting that pawn and attacking the rook would have been better. They move up here now and put pressure on this pawn. Okay, so yeah, there now the game is closer to even here. So what do? We attack. It says that's good, but king to e2 would have been better. They capture. Here we probably should move our king up, but what do? We capture. Oh, it says that's best. So they capture, of course. Now the game's almost even. So we jump up here, but it says we should have stayed in the middle of the board. I was thinking they would be able to check me from, if I moved up here to e2, but that's what the computer says is best. And now black is ahead in the game. All right, so they move their king up, which is best. We play b4, but that is a mistake. We should have played king to d1. All right, king to d1. All right, so here king to f6 is a mistake. They should have moved towards the center, but black is still ahead here. And he's threatening to move down here possibly and go after my pawns. So I push forward. This is excellent, but king to d1 is recommended by the computer. But black is ahead by this point. So now black makes an inaccuracy and the game's almost even. So h5 should have been played. And I did think about that h5 move here in the game. I was thinking, man, if he plays h5, I have to either push forward with a check and the king would capture my f-pawn, or I capture and then he captures, and then these doubled pawns are in trouble over here. So it was not looking good. All right, so they push forward. Our best option is to capture. They capture. Now the game is about even. We move our king up, but better would have been to jump the knight up into the game here. All right, so we have g5. It would have been better to capture. And now, after this mistake, black is almost winning here. So king to e6 is a great move. And we attack here, but this is a mistake. And black is winning. So I'm going to have to check that out and see why. Looks like knight to e1 would have been best. But even then, black is ahead. So let's take a look at this. Knight to c5. They play king to d5, which is a miss. So let's see what they should have done here. They should have captured. Then we recapture, of course. Then king to d5. Oh, and then, this maneuver here. If I try to protect the pawn and go after their pawn, oh man, they would just move here and block my pawn and protect theirs, and there'd be no way for, okay, so take a look at this. This is a good tactic to know. If I were to go here, well then they could just play this. And now what? I can't move to protect my pawn. I can't capture their pawn. And I would be losing because I would just have to keep an eye on this pawn, and their king could march over and pick off my pawns and promote theirs. All right. So let's go back and see what happened in the game. So they missed that opportunity. Then we move up here. I didn't want to capture. Let's see. It says knight to a6 would have been better. So that's interesting. I guess I would have a threat of coming back, to c7, forking the king and the pawn here. All right. So I guess we could take a look at that. Knight to a6, then king to d6, king to c2. Anyway, it looks like just a lot of maneuvering. So if we go a few more moves into it, knight to f6, attacking this pawn, or f2, king to c3. Yeah, white is just in trouble here. So man, I just totally gave this game away. Okay, let's take a look at the last few moves and see what happened here. Okay, so they go after this, and that's an inaccuracy. King to d6 would have been better. So we move here and protect the pawn. They attack our knight. What does this allow? It says this is a mistake. King to e5 would have been better. So we retreat back here, threatening to fork the king and the pawn. So they capture, which is best. We fork. They move up there, which is a mistake. And then after we recapture, now the game is about even again. So knight to e3, although king to e6 would have been better. So now my knight has to stop this runaway pawn. Immediately pushing forward with the pawn would have been better, because that would have kept the king from moving there as well to c6. Okay, so now we check, attack their knight, go after the knight again, although it would have been better to do it from this side. And the blunder, g3. So here they should have just played knight to e3 here, and the game would have been even. All right, so in the game, g3 was played. I capture their knight, so now I'm completely winning, and I managed to give the game away. So g2, I have to go here, although it likes f2 better, but I'm still winning. They attack. We move over towards their pawns, capture. King to f5. This is an inaccuracy. We should have just moved down here to hold the king back instead. So maybe it wants us to hold the king, maneuver down here, and capture. Let's take a look if we go back. King to d5 or d4 or even f4. Anyway, no matter what, we're ahead here. So we move over. Their king comes toward us. We play g6, which is a great move. And now this. And we missed the chance here. Oh, man. Yeah, we completely missed this. They should have moved up here, but we would still be ahead. Man. But, yeah, we were winning and gave it away. And here we can move knight to e1, forking the king and the pawn, and definitely be winning after that. All right. So we missed that fork, allowing them to capture, which is a great move. And now the game is even because we have to block here. They go after us. We have to move here. And then they just chase us around. And we don't have time to do anything here. So, a good way to hold that end game by my opponent. And it says the game would have just continued. Well, it just went to a draw by repetition here. All right, well, sorry it went on so long. I just gave that one away, guys, so I'll try and do better in the next few games. So I hope you enjoyed this game and analysis. And if you hung around for the whole video, I thank you. Thanks for watching. Please leave comments, suggestions, requests. If you haven't liked or subscribed already, please do so. But thank you, and have a great day, everyone.